Hey,
Hello. Good morning. Good day.
hey, good day to
How
you
are you guys?
too. Doing good, doing good.
Doing
Thank you.
good.
Yep.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. Nervous. First time here, and thanks for having me, first of all. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I brought some figures. I brought my book.
I see.
Yeah,
We'll share
I
links
think
to
I'm ready.
the book when you want to bring up the book and stuff. We'll share links to the book, of course, so everyone can know where to get the book. Again, I
Yeah,
own
exactly.
my own copy. I'm super excited. And the workflow that you're going to be sharing with us, I think everyone's going to really love this and see how you approach doing some hard surface techniques with inside of ZBrush. I think it'll be very exciting for people to see this.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I said, like most of my stuff is in the book is made with ZBrush, the models for sure. And also these guys, the figures that I'm producing since a few years are also fully ZBrush. These tend to be a bit cleaner than my usual models. The ones that end up just being 2D, they are a bit more messy and dirty. I really like, you just said in the intro, you can stay longer in the zone with certain tools, and I'm actually resonating with that a lot because the zone is my favorite zone. And that's why I like ZBrush, because I can stay in it for longer, I think. And yeah, I have my book. It looks like this. I have it with me too. There's like literally all my stuff in here. It's published by Design Studio Press. And yeah, today I just thought I'm gonna bring some of my ZBrush models because I rarely show them in their bare state, like behind the scenes, kind of backstage. Usually when you see them, they're all finished up with a lot of decals and a lot of render and a lot of Photoshop on top of them. So I thought it might be kind of cool to bring show some models and then show some tools I'm using.
Yep.
It's not easy. I trained this a little bit because an hour is, you can do a lot in an hour, but you can also get carried away. So I'm gonna start. I have to share my screen probably.
Yep.
Okay, share my screen.
Oh yeah. And again, like I'm super stoked actually because somebody in the comment section had said like, oh, they're still shocked that hard surface as a whole is like not like connected to ZBrush, but it's been doing hard surface since like as long as I can remember. So it's gonna be really cool to have this breakdown.
Yeah. Yes. And maybe one more thing I wanted to add. I'm totally coming from left field into this whole industry. I'm actually a car designer, or I'm a learned product designer, and I was for 20 years in the car industry. So I'm coming completely from hard surface, basically, but completely from left field. Like I was never in entertainment, but I enjoy it a lot. So you should be able to see me. Pop, pop, pop.
Yes, we have your screen. Yep.
So I prepared a few pages to really quickly talk about a few things before I'm going into ZBrush. For people that don't know what I'm doing, I want to just show a few images, a few of my favorite ones, and I know that people like outside of the book. I brought all these models in their bare state before any textures and anything. This guy, I will show and explain a few things about him, and also how I approach the models, because I mostly end up with my models in 2D, so I am very, let's say, efficient on how they are modeled. So some of them don't have backsides and stuff like this. So it's kind of probably interesting to see how much model there is and how much model there is not. This guy I brought, I'm gonna do something to him in the end of the session. I'm gonna rework the top of this visor and try something a bit more organic. I thought that could be a cool idea. And I brought this guy over here. he has actually some cool insert curve meshes, which create you these flat band cables like in one stroke with ZBrush. He has same technique going on here. I don't use it too often. I use actually more insert multi-mesh brushes. They're all over the place. It's probably my most used tool because I'm bashing these things together mostly. So it's all these ones are mixes out of sculpting, bashing, and then some panel functions. And yeah, so here's some other ones by myself, some darker ones, where the top one of this one is fully done in ZBrush. The rest is Photoshop, like somewhere from here on. I brought this one as a model. The frog drone I like this little guy a lot. And I brought this guy too because he's one of the only ones I'm actually, or there's more than him, but he's one of the only ones that are modeled like in a full body. Like I said, most of the time I model portraits. You could almost say, like almost all of the stuff I'm doing is robot portraits, and I tend to cut them at the shoulders too. Here I have this one as a model too today. That was the guy behind me. We're producing him as a toy. It's a very clean model, totally different style to what I'm usually doing. So I tend to bounce between a very sculpty style and a very super greebly techy style. Some more. These ones are a good cross section where you see what I'm doing is mostly robot portraits because I am very, very interested in facial expressions without having a face. I think this is how you could put it the best. So I'm loving to modeling faces, robot faces, and I hate putting two eyes on them. In this case, it's actually, there is two eyes, but it's a skull, that's okay. But I tend to either overdo a lot of eyes, like 4 or 8 or whatever. My toy is called Master 9 Eyes. But sometimes I also just try to avoid them, but still I love the challenge to make them look a certain way. Without having too cheesy googly eyes on them. Exactly. And the last page, I wanted to show just because they are so different in style from what I usually do. These are my toys. We will be next week at the DesignerCon in Las Vegas, which is a art toy fair, and we will launch a bunch of new ones. And I like showing this page and maybe the model of those because they're very nicely made models by myself and they look completely different. They are in a totally different style. They are very cartoony and just like every fold is kind of there. It's very, because it makes sense. So it's very reduced. So there's no greeble on them. There's just like the pure pose and sculpture. So I just wanted to show them because I think that's also a good thing about ZBrush because it's about sculpting after all. So I'm going to jump into ZBrush.
Yeah, before you jump in, though, I want to share, like you had mentioned it earlier, your background, you're coming from automotive, right? You're coming from an automotive world, alias and CAD applications.
Yes.
So for you, oh, wow, what's this tool, ZBrush? And I'm going to go start playing with it. Was there something in particular you saw or something you did, or you just saw it one day and you started playing with it and had a, well, I can see how I can design and create all these things you're sharing with us?
I know exactly how it happens. How it happened. My first contact with ZBrush was, I don't know, probably in 2003, 4 or something, like super old school. We had it in our university, and I kind of liked it there. But I always thought like we were so into Alias Wavefront. I was always like, it's such a niche product. I might never end up using it. And I'm originally from Germany, and in 2012 I came over here to LA, and I was at the art center, the final presentation of the entertainment students, actually, at the art center, and I was really quick at the car students, and I kind of, nothing surprised me there. Like I was like searching for something new in my head, and then I walked over to the entertainment students, and they had like these crazy horror figures, and they looked so realistic, and I was like, holy shit, what is that done with? And the guy was like, yeah, ZBrush and Photoshop. And I was like, holy shit, ZBrush, I know that program, but I kind of didn't use it for forever. But I know it. So I should actually look back into it, because I was really excited about what I've seen there. And this is how it started. That I then started to do robots with it, I think comes from my background, like from the hard surface background, and that I like all these Japanese, like I think Ghost in the Shell, Pet Labor. Like I talked with Ara actually on the Lightbox about it, that I have a very heavy Pet Labor influence, which is good. I think that's okay, but this is how it happened. And then in like 10 years ago, I really dove into it because of this second impact from ZBrush, from some heavy users. Yeah.
All right, thank you. We'll get you back into ZBrush now.
Okay, cool. So, okay, here's one of the first ones I showed you. And like I said, I show them rarely in this state. This is a very greebly one by myself. And like I said, it's a mix between panel, like let's say panel techniques. I even have these cut out, the sides of them. And there's some super small bashy parts in it. If I would expose this whole thing, it's fairly detailed for what I would do. That's why I bring it. So here you see all the parts. It even has a skull somewhere in there. The underside is not modeled at all. It's just, like I said, I'm very efficient. Like what you see is modeled, and what you don't see is kind of not modeled. So I knew about on this guy that I would go into 2D, and I would want a shot like this from him, maybe a straightforward one. I think the one shot that we see the most of him is straightforward, actually. And this guy is like everything from me. It's a mix between sculpted things, like down here, it's very just wrinkled sculpted, not even that crazy high res, because I know I want to put a fabric on it later. And then there's a lot of panel techniques and a lot of very small bash details in here. On the back, it doesn't even do much. It's not even that finished here. Here's these curve insert brushes that I'm using. They have tiny copper wires in them, and like all you have to do is basically, once you build that, I'm showing this later, you have to drag it out, and you get these super crazy wires here that you can render laid out with plastic, like I showed before. So this is a heavy detailed one. I'm trying to see what else I have here. Let's open this guy. This one I like a lot because I rarely do, like I said, full body sculpts. For the toys, I do them. On this one, he even has nicely organized folders. Also not that often, but this is basically when I go full body and also a bit more into detail, but it's the same types of things I'm using. So if you zoom in all the way, you have a bunch of these insert meshes, which I have a bunch of my own, like this guy. And this is what I like about ZBrush. So once you have modeled all of this stuff, you can just play around with these things and make stuff up. So this at the moment is heavily asymmetrical in the pose. That's why it doesn't work so good. But
are you for these models, are you doing more of like a sculptural Dynamesh approach, or do you also use ZModeler? Like, are you staying more?
I am staying a lot in the sculpting. You will see it when I do a little cylinder later to do an insert mesh, which probably most of the people would do with the ZModeler. But I actually, on the first attempt, I would still sculpt it. And this also surprised me how good you can actually sculpt these things. So this one is not done with ZModeler at all. It's hand sculpted basically. So this is a piece of clay, and I love how you can get it still to a resolution that looks like really cool. Yeah, here probably I used the cloth simulation. I don't use that often, but I kind of wanted to lay on the floor right, and then later I probably added some wrinkles into it. That's the back face. So yeah, I would refine it later. That's probably an interesting one to see. And I wanted to show Master Nine Eyes for sure. So that is the toy we saw earlier, and it's completely different style. I really don't dribble too much around on it. I don't add too many things that are unnecessary. So this is a very simple, it's very full in the resolution, but it's a very, on the parts is very simple. So I try to be really focused on the stance of it and the character and basically what it's supposed to tell the people who like the figure. And yeah, so I have a bunch of those, and they are produced straight out of ZBrush. Same technique. You see the cylinders that I use a bunch. They are in that same folder. Which ones are those? Kind of those. And once you have made a set for you, you can just go nuts in ZBrush. This is what I usually like. You don't have to. I think this is what made me come over, actually. You don't have to think too much about curves and CVs. So coming from the world of NURBS and alias, not that it's bad, but I was kind of annoyed by having to think too much about where the curve goes while I'm not even sure what I want to do. So this, I think, brought me into ZBrush, and yeah, I think what I like about ZBrush is that I like you guys said in the trailer, that you can stay in the zone for longer, and I'm not thinking about CVs or vertices or curves at all. Like I'm going straight from the sphere or from the base head into sculpting and just make stuff up without thinking about curves. Later, the more detail it gets, the more I think about it. And then I would also start using the ZModeler, but I actually try to avoid it a little bit because I feel like I'm jumping back into the rabbit hole that I didn't want to be in with basically, like, I have to know all the time before, like, where the CVs are going. And so I would always approach, the first step, concepting and sculpting. And then maybe later I would use the Z modeler to clean stuff up. I use it more and more now, but I enjoy the freedom of the clay, of the sculpt. So here is one guy I want to show you that we seen him in the picture earlier. He's in the book. What I was talking about with the efficiency is he stops where the picture would stop, so I didn't actually continue. And on this guy's even crazier because he's not even there on the other side. It's fully, he has no symmetry, so it's very sculpted from an asymmetrical thing, so there was never a symmetry in here. But I think it's kind of cool to see the behind the scenes. And if I wanted him to be symmetrical, I could mirror all this over. But again, I'm pretty sure that I was pretty sure, and I still think it was a good decision to show this guy just like this from side view. And yeah, this is all I model at that point. I would also do this for projects when I work for games or something like this. I would also, if I just want to show a certain area, I would do the same thing. And this, like I said, this is a mix out of panel loops, like panels that are fairly random in this case, and some insert curve mesh brushes. This one I will show in a second, because you can actually have like a different start, a different end, and a middle that gets repeated, and you can draw this guy out with one stroke and then move it around. I will show it. And then sculpted parts like this, even as a whole. But it's basically fully sculpted with some brushes that mimic seams and stuff like this. Yeah.
Oh, this is like really cool to see the different approach that you've taken with this. If you don't mind me asking, what are some of the like inspirations you draw from when creating a sculpture like this?
This is a heavy old school Japanese Ghost in the Shell, Gundam kind of vibe. Also Metal Gear Solid. I'm like a huge Metal Gear Solid fan. And this guy goes actually a lot into detail. A second. Come on. So these parts are actually super detailed, even though it's just the eye, but it's also some part of a a car or something. I just downloaded this one. I didn't build this one. I just got it from somewhere, but it's all the way down to the inside of his eye. He even has these little things sticking out where he plugs his eye into the gun. It's not an actual eye, it's a plug, because he doesn't need to look through a scope. He's a robot. It's just the connection of the humanoid to the device. And yeah, this comes heavily from gaming, from other robot artists, and a very heavy portion from what is it? Japanese movies, like old school anime. I want to show a short cylinder really quick, how quick that actually goes. I'm not gonna save this guy, and this will probably answer a few things. I might actually go silent a little bit. So I usually would start actually with a sphere and then get myself a cylinder. I'm gonna delete this one back out, duplicate this over. Probably turn off the symmetry, the perspective. Raise this guy up a few times. And this is now, this is probably, you could probably build it way more exact in the ZModeler brush. But like I said, if I go from like scratch and I don't know what I'm actually doing, I would literally go in sculpting these things from scratch. And I was always surprised how this shocked me the most, like the trim dynamic brush, how you can basically go at an edge and start sculpting it, maybe a bit more count, into a chamfer in like a second, and it sits perfect. Like in every other program, I would think like I've never hitting this edge to kind of sculpt the chamfer on there, but it's so nice to just decide these things on the fly with sculpting tools. I would probably remesh this guy, let's say with the same, to make the topology a bit better from where I started from. So now it's, except for the center, pretty good topology, and like probably every hard surface guy, I would use the Damon standard. A second, reduce intensity up. And I would just do these types of things. I would probably put one in the top too. Actually, now, since this looks good, I would actually polish this over one more time. I try also to not razz these up too much. I think that's why the this is where the ZModeler brush would be actually better for the insert multi-meshes. But I just wanted to show how a few tools that are like pinch brush is insane tool. It basically pulls the curve to a line that you're drawing. So basically, when I go over here and draw over there, in this case, straight is better, it pulls together this shed line and makes it more exact, and you start getting something really, really nice. What I use lately a lot, and I don't even know what that is, like what type of brush that is, but I use the chisel shapes. It's back here. Usually I have my last two brushes back here. I'm experimenting with these two. The bevel flat, really funky, and the chisel shapes is really good. And the first ones is just the ones I use a lot, so that I don't always have to go up in here. I have this is one of my most favorite ones. You see them down here. And so this brush would basically do Boolean or something like that, Boolean functions into the mesh, inward and outward. You could also put it outward. And before I would model this as a real cylinder, I would want to know, is this a good looking cylinder? So I would add these details. There is a bunch of cool stuff in here, which I like as well. And you get the really exact shapes from these. It's almost like doing Booleans without actually doing them. And I even think I could, let me see, I'm gonna duplicate that one more time. This one I use a lot too, clip curve. I'm not sure if that works out, but let's see.
So in essence, you're making your own, you're concepting your own meshes that you're going to use later.
Yes.
to kit bash, right? So you're also concepting the actual meshes and then using those to concept out the final model, right?
Yeah, I will show that in a second, exactly.
Okay.
So I just wanted to show how that I can actually do this on the fly. And like I said, stuff like this, I would actually in the beginning, either I would leave it, or if I think it should go up here, I would just polish it up. And then I think a logo might be cool. Just let me see. I have alphas to make logos. And you can, what the point about, that's not very straight. The point about this being, you can go like incredibly detailed on all these parts that you build. Like I always need to be in a certain mood to do this. Like sometimes I have this this moment where I think like I just want to build like one detail. It will, sometimes it's relaxing, sometimes it will annoy you when you model those. Now I inserted a mesh into this whole thing, and I kind of actually could do this again, I think, on this guy. Yeah, that's some radial curve, some radial symmetry. Ah, it doesn't work. Let's say like this. So you have this, I do this a lot. So I have a cylinder I modeled in like, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It doesn't take long, to be honest. Now I would actually throw this guy, make an insert mesh out of it. Say create insert mesh, say new. And now I have this guy as a brush here. And this is such a important thing to my workflow, that the more parts you build over the years, where is it? The more of these parts you will have, and you will start building a library. So if you would want to start making a, I don't even save these anymore. In other programs I would have saved like a few times, but I kind of, they are so quick to make that sometimes I don't even save them anymore and go over here, and you get really quick into a Daytonerish universe. I usually leave myself a little base on the cylinders that I can move them in later and get all the details going. However, I want them. And this one would also, you can actually control the size of the cylinders while you're doing that. You could make a long, slim cylinder out of it on the fly. And even though I would probably later build real cylinders, I think just to look at it very early like this is really awesome. And so basically you will see all, now that you know, you will see all these parts. I mean, people that use ZBrush a lot will see all these parts anyways, but let me see. So you have this guy, for instance. So these parts are not modeled at that point in time. They are modeled at a different point in time. And like I said, you can just see if you like 20 cylinders or just 2 or 3. That's why I like a lot about ZBrush. The other thing I want to show, and I think I'm jumping over to something else first. I wanted to show how I do some panels. I'm gonna open this guy because I think this was one major moment for me where where ZBrush kind of ended up on a whole nother level, I would say, for me, because in the beginning you start like sculpting these bulbs of clay, and you don't actually split up models, and I never really understood why a layer has to be a subtool, but it doesn't matter. But at the point where you kind of learn how to split models up, I think there was such a big big step for me, because then you notice like, oh my god, I can make this so detailed, and also the weight of the data is so heavy. Actually, the ZBrush data is so dense, usually when it's sculpting, when it's not like done with dynamic subdivision or something like this. But the point where I noticed I'm able to split these things up was like a big one for me, like in the beginning, like, I don't know, after the first year or something. So what I wanted to do with this guy, I just wanted to on the fly rebuild his whole visor here, and show some things that I usually do. I will duplicate this guy. When I found him, like, he's probably 7 years old, the geometry is like really bad on this visor. It's decimated, probably for computer reasons, for processor reasons. But I just left it like this, and because I think this is also one of the powers of ZBrush for me, is to how much you can go in and out of these mushy surfaces. So I did a Dynamesh now, so I have now a fairly good topology with a few like little mistakes, and I would probably do a Z-mirror measure on top of it to make it really nice. What I like is you can get this thing down back to a mushy blob, because you decide to work on it further, even though the rest is kind of super nice and detailed. And you can go in and out of these levels of
do you do any retopo, like cleanup topology wise versus like maybe some UVing? We're getting that question on the chat. Do you have that need to have like clean topology at any point? Maybe zero measure hand retopology.
Actually not. When we produce the figures, I think yes. I know how to do it. I think it's good to know how to do it. But like I said, I rarely don't want to go into these rabbit holes. It's almost like a selfish attempt, creative workflow kind of situation, because I noticed over the years that I try to only stay in a tool as long as it's kind of fun. And I think that is throughout my workflow that I do that a lot. So I stay in ZBrush for as long as I need to kind of finish what I wanted to do, and to have the base for Photoshop or something. And that brings me rarely towards the UV. Like once I find myself in too deep of a rabbit hole where I don't look at the actual design of the character anymore. It's probably at the end anyways, but I spend more time finding the right look for the character. So rather than being too perfect in every little detail, I think that's a good way to describe it. And yeah, like I said, I'm using all these tools again and again. With lazy mouse also a lot.
It looks like you're doing a lot of H polish and trim dynamic, right? To start putting in these planes. Those are the two main brushes that you're using?
Yeah. So it's the clay tubes. I don't know why it's the tubes and not. There's a few other clay brushes for the build up, but this one felt the most. I also used in university to sculpt in real, like actual people with actual clay, and this felt the most like the clay tubes felt the most like I would smear on certain clay portions on a model. And I would also basically use this to kind of, like, I think people that model muscles, they would also just it's almost like you drawing it with a pencil, and you would almost do the same kind of lines when you draw it in 2D. So it felt the most like rough, so I can change stuff really quickly. Yeah.
Do you think there's any brush that kind of simulates what you guys you do in clay and automotive, right? You have a little thin metal sheet, right, that you kind of slowly go along the clay surface to get the lines of an automobile. Is there any brush that gives you that kind of feel in ZBrush right now?
I have a few ones that kind of simulate the texture. Actually, I have a few really cool ones, but they're almost then like alpha brushes. Again, I'm actually happy with how those work. I have to say. If I would want more clay texture, then I would probably do something else in the end, and almost attach it like an alpha in the end for the texture. So I think I want to get this guy out. This I wanted to show. So Damien stand-up brush is a big one probably for everybody who does hard surface. That was actually also not great. And even though this line is not the most important in the world, I kind of want it to sit fairly right. Let's go like here. So I would draw myself on what I want to do. I leave everything very not cylindrical for the moment, and then I would cut these things out with this was for me like the big step. I would cut these out with lassos and make those parts. So like this. So I'm trying to show how I get to my parts and to my panels and how ZBrush works like that. ZBrush is a very good tool, I think, if you have a calm hand. So if you are good with Photoshop, I think ZBrush is a really good tool for you, because sometimes I now work in Photoshop backwards, like I work in ZBrush. Like I selected now these things, they are now invisible, and I would split them up. So now where did it go? There it is. Huh. So I now have split it up into two parts, which I would work on later, and I would want that nose part too. See where we are in time. And I would cut this out.
Your time, just so since you asked, your time is, you got 15 minutes left.
That's good. So I do the same thing with this guy. gives you a good idea how rough or not rough it is. It was fairly rough. I'm going to do this again. So I would sketch myself the themes on, and then I would kind of divide it into these parts. And then we have a big mess back here, but I'm going to solve this in a second. So this one I split as well.
There's a question that came through that they may have not seen when you were playing with the cylinder. They asking, how do you deal with clean, smooth bevels and change the bevel strength or profile? Do you just sculpt some more into it, or do you have another technique that you like to use?
I would just sculpt more into it. Like I would try, it's almost like on a sketch, I would try to, like, let's say the bevel, this bevel, I would try to make this right. I would not change it later on. I would, if I rebuild this in a Z modeler later on, then I would be able to, but not like that. No, I would not change it later. I would rather do like 3 or 4 strokes, and then just if later on I think it's too small, I would just go over one more time. And here is a thing. I was actually wondering if, so I have this little menu here, which I use a lot. It's also jumps back here, and I do this a lot, and I'm not sure if that is a thing people do. Because ZBrush works really good with little chunks of stuff. I make myself thicker versions of geometry like that. I kind of close holes and then I move a part of it. I have no idea if that's a thing, but it works really good for me because I get these super chunky things. And it's way nicer to sculpt on them. So now I get a full thing. I will rest this up a little. I smooth it over. I would probably turn on Dynamesh on this guy to keep going. So now you see I have this extra part in here. Let me do this. Dynamesh is on. And now I would start again sculpting to a point. I can actually show the pinch brush on this one really good. So the pinch brush that I showed earlier, so I would polish it. There's a lot of polishing, hard surface stuff. But I would also make up these shapes, and the shape that just happens, that basically this line runs over here and the other line runs along the nose straight back. I think this is a typical ZBrush thing that I would not necessarily model right out of the bat with Blender. This is a very sculpted feeling corner that just happens while you sculpt stuff. And I think in a different program, this is a very sculpted looking thing somehow. And now the pinch brush, if you don't like this curve, I would use the pinch brush to kind of paint the right shape in the air. And ZBrush tries to bring the geometry to that. And you can get some fairly nice running lines with crown and everything. It's a very car thing to say, but even here you can squeeze them together all you want. And also up here I would probably do it. I'm gonna leave this guy for now. Make it hard. Also very sculpted corner, but I like these things happening. These a bit more organic and bio feeling surfaces, almost like skull type surfaces. That's actually a thing that for my work, I think skulls is a big inspiration, because the surfaces that I'm doing are actually pretty organic and soft, but then I put a hard texture on it and I get all these super nice highlights. And I think the closest in nature is a skull that does that. It's actually a hard surface with organic shapes to it. So this guy I would leave like this. Let me just add one more detail here. I have a bunch of cool brushes I told Paul about. They're from JRO Tools. I've never talked to him, never met him, but I like these brushes a lot because they add a lot of detail in the first phase of concepting. And I would, before I jump to the next part, I would want this nose part to kind of do a borderline right thing. And you see I get all this detail in this part. If you zoom out, it's already like two parts coming together, and I have a hard edge on the one side and a soft edge on the other side. I'll probably chisel in some shapes here. Why not? While we are here, I would also, sometimes I use the Damon Standard reverse to add these types of details. Ugh.
So someone asking in the chat, do you use these models for printing? Like, do you print them, or do you eventually use them as just concepting, or is there any practical application?
So most of the time it's concept. Most of the time it's concepting. But for the figures that I'm producing, I have to be. They're also not printed, but there's actually molds made from them, so it's actually one step crazier. And this is where I would have to be really exact. There's another one of those weirdos. I would want this that I can see everything at the same time, and maybe I can, but it's the same thing that I did in the beginning. I'm making this a super odd part. I just want the fullness to sculpt on these sides here. Autosave. It's probably a good thing. And so that's not a side part.
So how would you go about, like, for example, because now you have a little bit of a mismatch between those two shapes that you just extracted, right? So how would you go about, like, making that transition clean between one subtool and the other? Like, you can see those two that you just split apart.
That's here on the front.
Sorry?
Which crooked corner do you mean? This one on the front, right?
Yeah, like that line, that panel line, right? That separates the subtools.
Yeah.
Because of the Dynamesh and the whole, process.
Yeah. I would actually sculpt this guy first now. So this would be the guide for the panel, because I would do the panel last. And even this is not a cylinder, so even this is not nice. But like I said, I don't always need it nice. This is a very important thing.
So you don't use like the brushes?
1 second.
There we go. Okay, that's what I was curious about. Like, if you ever.
So I used clip curve out of the vision angle for some things, or this I would clip. This whole thing I would clip until it kind of fits, like this guy. Yeah, I would clip it until it fits Now I even have the other part, which is not good, but I would do the same on the other part. So I would probably clip that too. Doesn't do it.
It's masked. It's masked.
Ah, it's masked.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And if this happens, I would even actually pull it, which is what you not would do in car design, but I would actually just pull it. On this one, I would probably I try to make it to this panel. I would probably I use this guy a lot, trim hole, and I would probably make myself a negative trim hole here, because it forces the stuff into a cylinder too. At least enough of a cylinder, like the front, so that I kind of end up with a cylinder, not this one.
Do you mean the clip circle?
Clip circle as well, but I use it less than in sculpting. I use more this kind of stuff. So just that it.
Yeah, you're using the trim hole that's found in Lightbox. It doesn't ship by default inside the brush.
Yep.
Yeah. So just that I zoom out and I have a perfect cylinder if I want it there. So I just know, I just place that cylinder there, basically, as a note for later. And the eye kind of corrects it, basically. I would probably.
Just want to let you know you have about 4 minutes. I don't know if you wanted to go in. I know you and I talked about maybe your cloth stuff. I don't know if you wanted to show that or anything else.
I wanted to, so I would do this.
I have to say while you're
in the zone.
While you're doing this, actually, this is where like I'm like, yes, this is how I'm going to do hard surface.
So I would actually cut this guy, and let's see how far I can get with the slice curve, because it makes very straight slices. As far as I know, it doesn't do the. So I would try to make myself super nice curves here, and I would delete these guys and try to define that panel a bit nicer than it is. Calm hands. Actually, it doesn't mirror over as far as I know. Maybe it happened. I'm gonna leave this, delete hidden. I'm gonna mirror it over. And then the nose, I think, is super important. And I think I can actually get to the end. Oh, shit. Okay, and we take it, delete hidden, mirror it over, and I'm gonna now get rid of all of this back here. Delete hidden, mirror over. There's some rests. Delete hidden. And now I would, out of this ugly thing, I would go into actually it's not so ugly anymore. I would go into these edge loops, the panel loops, elevation minus. I would probably change I show this really quick. So this makes you a nice panel, nice enough panel. So when it's just by one click, the important thing is that you have a nice panel. And what I love about this is that you can change the side profile of that panel, and it immediately looks like you have like spent forever on this panel, and it was basically just a click. Now I would actually still move that panel. That's what I also like about ZBrush. I would still go in here pretty hard and not be too worried about those edges. because I would know that I probably go into these things a few times after this. But I just want to see, is that thickness of a panel a good thickness for that guy? It's like concepting, basically. And I would, I don't do these now. So on this guy, to finish it in time, let's see, I would probably dent some stuff out, dent some stuff in, dent it out, maybe put a few chisel shapes as we're running out of time. Some Damien standards, but you will end up having this like set of things that you usually do to detail it up in the end. I like these ones a lot. There's 2 lines, these guys. I don't know why, but they make everything look plasticky. I have to res it up. One more time. There we go. So they make everything look super plasticky. I will leave this guy on the side and maybe this guy down here, and I use the fat brushes.
I'm curious to see like if you can showcase how you do cloth, like as Paul was asking. I don't know. That was a question from the chat.
Cloth, I would now model. That's why I'm getting at it. And I have these brushes. So if I would want to know what type of guy this guy is, I would not. I have these brushes from ZBrush tools, and you don't need long with them to finish this thing in like the last 2 minutes. So I use these also to an extent, I think, which is totally unhealthy for the topology, but I would use these brushes in a humongous size. This brush is called a wrinkle brush. Down here, I use it negative and positive. I have no idea who is it from. Would be cool if somebody says who it's from. But if you still are basically modeling them by hand, like this. And you need to know a little bit what wrinkles doing so that they sit right. But yeah, it's actually a good part to see that. So if you know there's these types of wrinkles and all this kind of stuff, you are really quick with the wrinkle brush. So I would sculpt it. To the short answer would be I would sculpt it. I would go in here. I would probably put myself a few more sockets for some cylinders. I actually want to get back to the cylinder.
So you use the trim hole more as a sketch, just remind yourself to then put something there? That's
as a very nice way to get to these sockets for the cylinders, you know. I think that's somehow my fastest way. The clip does it too. And now maybe I can come back to the cylinder we did earlier. I'm not sure if it's looking good, but so this was the cylinder we did earlier, which was like 10 minutes or something. So now I would put these guys here, shove them in a little. And so, yeah, every one of those cylinders has this little logo still that we put in the beginning. So it's incredibly detailed through the insert mesh brushes.
Yep.
And this would basically be that.
Nice. That's awesome. That's incredible. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but you literally were just sculpting in front of everybody. And again, we got all into we're just going to watch kind of mode.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So killer. Again, like you just some techniques too that you're sharing with us, and just a thought process. I can't thank you enough too for being a part of the summit and sharing your techniques. It was awesome just watching you work and the way you were thinking about your process. So yeah, I was very
Thank
cool.
you for having me. It was awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
The voice cuts out a little bit once you start sculpting. It's like it is. Cool.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being here. Again, we're sharing the links for his book, so you guys can also take a look at that, and then press for that. And then we've been sharing his Instagram as well, so you guys can check out his work. So check the chat for that. We're going to be back in a second. We're going to give away some more prizes. Thank you, Daniel. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Daniel.
So much.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.